You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast with Sinan Schwarting and Kaan Bayazit.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru atıyor. Kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Yuma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet. Ve
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 58 of Beşiktaş International's The Black Eagles podcast. I am your host, Sinan Schwarting, live from New York City. Today, following a big match. But before I even get into the details, let me introduce my co-host and your favorite, Kaan Bayazit, everyone. How you doing, Kaan?
Hey, what's up? Did we win or something?
Yeah.
You seem upbeat. Why do you keep introducing me as everyone's favorite? Do people send you messages like hate mail, like shut up, sir, we want to hear Kaan talk more, or like he doesn't talk enough already?
Yeah, I doubt that's the case, Kaan. No,
Indeed.
no, I it's my whole, my mythos, my ethos. You know, it's. Remember how I used to talk about the haters that didn't exist? You know,
yeah.
I need opposition to thrive. You know, I gotta make up heat.
Yeah, that's true. We all do. Beşiktaş need their rivals too, so let's hope Fenerbahçe don't relegate, shall we?
Yeah, right. That might be a stretch, Kaan. But let's definitely not entertain the idea that like Bursaspor are rivals, because. But let's not.
They can relegate. I won't miss them.
Well, speaking of Bursaspor, there happens to have been a match today held in the Vodafone Park between Beşiktaş and Bursaspor. So how's that for an intro? The fake rivals. The
plastic rivals.
The plastic rivalry. The one-way rivalry, if you will.
The one-way plastic rivalry.
That should be the title of the episode.
That should be the. We should just refer to them henceforth as the plastic rivals or something.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I like it. I dig it. Well, so we had a match, and I don't want to spoil it. And I'll just cut right into it. I'll cut right to the chase. So Beşiktaş threw out as their starters Loris Karius in the goal, Gökhan Gönül and Adriano on the flanks, Isimat Mirin, or Isimiran, as he was referred to throughout the match by the commentator, Vida, Hutchinson, Tokuz, and then on the wings, Lenz and Güven Yalçın, for a surprise perhaps, and Ljajic behind the striker, who was Burak Yilmaz. Any comments on that, Kaan? Any surprises to you in that starting lineup?
I was hoping for Kagawa to get a start. I really thought that he deserved it after what he showed us against Antalyaspor. And I don't. You can tell me that he can't play 60 minutes. I mean, yeah, he hasn't played much this season, but I'm sure he could have played 60 minutes. And look at Burak. I mean, he didn't play much this season, and he immediately got 60 minutes in his first two games from Şenol. So I was a little bit peeved about that. But then when I ultimately, saw how hard and how much work that Güven did in this match and how important he was, I think, for not so much in regards of being involved in spoiler alert, the goals, but just his all-around work rate and like we like to say in Dutch, the dirty meters that he made. He worked very hard for the team and played a very selfless game, and he did really well. So in hindsight, I can be disappointed with the choice that Şenol made, but I definitely would have preferred to see Kagawa start. I just want to see them build that chemistry between Kagawa, Ljajic, Lenz, and Burak. I just think that's the thing that is going to get us somewhere, and I think the quicker you get to that point, the better.
fully agreed. Yeah, I'm fully with you on that. And I was also pleasantly surprised by Guven Yalchin. But we'll get into that in analysis. The one thing I don't want to talk about much, but I think needs to be mentioned, is what on earth. So, all right, we did a poll. I remember when we first signed Nicolas Isimat Midin, and I said, what name will he be referred to as? Will it be Isimat? Will it be Midin? Will it be Isimat Midin? And like other, and I thought we might get a joke, like the Beast or something. No, today we got something entirely new. And Kaan, I mean, just had Isi Miran. So for a while it was just Miran. And I was like, this guy's name is Midin.
Okay, so the first time I heard him say it, I thought he said Milan.
Me too, Kaan. I was like, who's Milan? And I was like,
So
he's
then
talking about Mirin.
So then it turned out to be Miran,
Yeah.
which I was like, huh? And then it kind of morphed into Mirin, which is fine, because that's kind of how you have to pronounce it in French, I assume. Mirin. Isima Mirin. But
Okay.
then he morphed it into Isi Miran. Or Miran. Isi Miran.
It was
And
amazing.
I'm like, oh, like the Miran was okay, I guess. If you kind of want to make it sound like Miran, then it's kind of okay, I guess. But the Isi Miran, what is that? That's like a completely made up player. That's not even his name.
And it was amazing because it morphed from like, that's weird, to like, what is going on? This guy is like, what the hell?
And like around the 60th minute mark or something, he even said something about it himself. He said something along the lines like, "I've been changing the name," like. And the co-commentator was like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
you've
we're
been
all
messing
aware.
it up a bit.
We're all
It's been
aware.
all over the place." But yeah, he needs to just decide on. I think it's just easier if he just calls him Isimat.
Yeah, or
I
maybe
mean,
just go with Nicola. Like, let's just
Yeah.
cut to the chase. Anyway, that needed to be noted because for anyone who watched in Turkish, it was honestly like. It was hilarious. If
was
we hadn't
amazing.
gotten a result, at least I could have gotten a few laughs out of that. So
I have to say, I love the commentator though. His name eludes me, but this is one of my favorite commentators. So
yeah, and while we're talking about like non-vital members of the match, I think the referee was also quite good today. Anyway, but
didn't have much to do.
no, but yeah, anyway, just in passing, I'll note because he let play go on. He didn't let them get away with. Like the
I think he missed like a
fouls.
super obvious foul on Burak, which I think,
for sure.
which I and this is not the first time that I've noticed this, that when it's Burak that he did. Apparently, when he plays for Galatasaray, he can flop all over the place and
get
get
the
every
whistle.
single foul. And then when he plays in a Beşiktaş shirt, he can actually get fouled and just not get it.
It's alright.
And
It
VAR
made him
doesn't
focus.
intervene either.
Though. It made him focus on the game. So maybe today that was. But I have to say that the flip side of that point is that in general he was letting play go on a lot, and the benefit was that it didn't allow Bursa to stop play, which has been a very successful tactic throughout the season thus far. He didn't allow that to happen at all because he just wasn't calling anything for a while. So that was to our benefit. But anyway, let me get into it. Also, one special piece of information to note. We've got the Twins submitting stadium sounds direct from the match against Bursa. They were there in attendance. I'm fairly positive you're going to be able to identify one, if not both of them, cheering throughout many of the sound bites they've provided. But so yeah, in keeping with our tradition of playing stadium sounds direct from the match, Emre was not there this week, but the Twins were. So thanks to them for procuring these sounds for us. And yeah, it's always good to get this stuff. Carrying on, I'll just jump straight into the timeline so we don't have to worry about spoiling anymore. We can get to the results. So the match started. It was it was an interesting match early on. Back and forth affair with Beşiktaş definitely having the advantage. I worried for a while that we had a number of chances that we were not quite putting away. Burak getting to the ball, but not quite doing much with it. It was a bit of a stressful first half. But in the 40th minute, their defense was finally unlocked by Jermaine Lens on a beautiful cross into Burak Yilmaz. To put it away with his left foot. The first goal, that was the Trivela, right, by Jermaine Lens?
Yeah, the first one was the Trivela cross. I don't really know. It was the outside of the. Yeah, I guess it was a Trivela. I guess it was a really nice cross.
So we get all the benefits of Quaresma without the crap, and we have Jansen now. Anyway, so beautiful cross from Jermaine Lens onto Burak Yilmaz's left foot. He puts on a nice shot with his left foot, and he'd been fruitless up to that point. And so I was quite concerned, but bam, like one classy striker's finish, and suddenly everything looked different. Our whole outlook, because really once you unlock Burak Yilmaz, you're unlocking a very important tool, and even a hater like myself has to acknowledge that. So it was great to see that happen. Beşiktaş has a 1-0 lead, and that's how they would go into the half. There were no substitutions at the half for Beşiktaş, although it looks like Bursa took out Yasmin Latovlevici, which is a mouthful, and brought in Alano. There was
Lima.
not much early on.
That's the name people
Sorry?
will know him as, Lima.
Oh, Alano Lima. Yeah, that's right. And he actually was, he put some danger on our goal. He made the most of his chances, maybe, but not quite, since he didn't score. But not much happened shortly thereafter, as far as that sub goes. They made another sub. Henri Saive came out for Abdullahi Shehu. Saive had been active, although a little bit clumsy. Lots of fouls. I think they probably took him out for his own benefit. In the 55th minute, there was a yellow card to Aytaç Kara, and in the 62nd minute, Burak Yilmaz struck again.
Burak attı! Gol Burak Yılmaz! Burak Yılmaz! Burak Yılmaz! Burak Yılmaz! Burak Yılmaz! Burak Yılmaz! Burak Yılmaz! Burak Yılmaz! Burak Yılmaz! Burak! Burak! Burak! Yılmaz! Burak! Burak! Burak! Burak!
Kaan, why don't you describe that, since you've just looked at the highlight? You're probably going to do
I'm still looking at it.
Job.
Hadn't gotten to that point yet. You're going quicker than the highlights are. But he basically recovered the ball on in the Bursaspor half, but he still had a ways to go. And so he dribbled with the ball at his feet, and then cut to his right to cut out Ertuğrul Ersoy. Bursaspor, in my opinion, is best defender, and then he just fantastic shot into the bottom right corner, leaving the goalkeeper without a chance. And that goal was 100% Burak. That was his goal. He created that completely himself. He won possession, and you could see it after during a celebration how. The first goal, I think he was tempering his joy and he was staying calm, but you could see that second one that really emotion could be read on his face, and even I kind of teared up. I'm not I'm not a massive Burak fan. I never have been. I appreciate his qualities, and I can recognize his talents, but I'm not. One day when he was scoring left and right at Trabzon and Galatasaray, people in Turkish football were hyping him up incredibly and acting like he was a world-class striker, which he isn't. He's really good, but he's not world-class. He just lacks that too much to be a world-class striker. He's a really good player that plays off the shoulder of the defender, makes great runs. He's a good finisher, not a great finisher, good finisher. But he lacks heading ability. He lacks overall technique to be really world class. He has some world class traits, perhaps, like his reaction, his runs, and all that is really, really, really good. But I never really jumped on that bandwagon because I didn't see it because he had too many flaws. But I was still really happy for him because you could see it was such a relief for him, and I think that second goal kind of won the crowd over completely because
I was gonna say the moment where I was slightly touched, even myself and my cold heart. I'm kidding, but was actually at the end of the match when he was called to the stands. And you could see he was almost like shy. You could tell that he was touched and impacted positively. So that, it's good to see. It's just, it can't be stressed enough how much of a tool that's going to be for Beşiktaş going forward if they can kind of activate him.
If you can keep him healthy and if you can feed him, he's going to get you goals. He's a guarantee for goals.
And today he shows with his brace. But so, anyway, 62nd minute, he got the second one. But lots of back and forth. At this point, Bursaspor starts to come alive, although it's really at this moment, in the 67th minute, where Jermaine Lens comes off for Shinji Kagawa. And then much more so when Guven Yalçın comes off for Caner Erkin, when Beşiktaş starts to lose it. And the energy, as soon as you swap a guy like Guven Yalçın out for a guy like Caner Erkin, you're signaling the intent to sort of come back more and play a more defensive brand of football. And that's very much what happens. Bursa gets a few nice opportunities, giving Loris Karius the opportunity to shine a little bit towards the end of the match. Aytaç Kara comes out of the match in the 75th minute for Kubilay Kanatsikuş. So that's an interesting name.
Kanatsikuş.
And Greek. I can't even... Kanatsikuş. Is he Turkish and Greek? Is that a...
No.
Anyway.
Kanatsis means without a flank, I guess.
So he's just a Turk. I got the Turkish name? Kanatsikuş. It sounds almost like...
No. It's perfect.
Lithuanian or something. Oh. Anyway, in the 82nd minute, Adriano comes off for Necip Uysal, and at this point, it's like all hands on deck. That's where Karius makes a couple saves. Caner Erkin earns himself a yellow in the 87th minute. But that's it as far as anything written in the match review. That's all that really occurs. The game ends 2-0 to Beşiktaş, a big home victory against a one-sided plastic rival, as we've dubbed them. And a very important 3 points.
Tribünde Beşiktaş'ın Burak! Oh!
Anything to say about that before I get into the stat flash, Con, or shall I just mosey on over to the next portion?
Yeah, I don't really think that we lost the control. I think we gave. I wouldn't say we lost it at any point. I think we were in comfortable position. They had a couple chances in the last 15 minutes or so, but they didn't create anything in the first 75.
Nothing at all. No, we were just less. We were less coherent.
Our energy went down a little bit. I mean,
and we lost our form, which is
we played a very high tempo for like up until the second goal. We played a very relentless tempo, I think, which is something I really liked because usually under Şenol Güneş, under Bilic, and which we have had for many years, I think that we had the good tempo until we scored and then it went down. Now we kept it until we scored the second one. That's very positive.
For sure.
Would have liked to see us get a third, but I think it was kind of clear that we wouldn't need it tonight, although you never know. Like Samet Aybaba said in his post-match interview, if we would have put one of those 4 chances away, you never know, we might have gotten something from this match. I highly doubt it, but you never know.
I mean, one thing I have to say is I don't think that the subs were very good conceptually. And here's the thing, like the reason I think we lose our form is that, right, so you sub out a wing for an attacking midfielder. Fine, you can kind of make do because we have these moving parts, these guys who are somewhat dynamic. But then you take out Guven for Caner. So you take out the other quote-unquote wing for a fullback, or more of a fullback anyway, although, of course, Caner has experience there. But still, we're kind of losing our shape even more. Yeah. And then you take out Adriano for Necip. And remember, Adriano's a fullback in this match. So at this point, like, it's... You know, obviously it's like, let's just play back and defend, and you know, and they got the job done. But you know, I mean, I don't think you necessarily have to react to a 2-0 lead in that way. Yeah,
but with Adriano coming off, I think that might have been a slight injury or something. I usually have the impression with Adriano when he comes off that it's a precautionary sub where there's probably felt something and they just took him off out of precaution.
Yeah, sure. But so then what I mean though is then maybe you make the Caner sub for Adriano. I think Dorukhan could have come off because he was although he actually did kind of play better later in the match, which is weird.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
We were talking about it like the first hour or so that we weren't too impressed with Dorukhan. Oh, Jesus Christ, my dog. Do you hear that?
No.
Okay.
Maybe it'll come through in the recording. If
okay. You know, she just goes like, just because I'm petting her. No, but the first hour or so, we were kind of I think we were kind of being misled a little bit by the fact that he wasn't involved like he usually is in the attacks. Which we kind of gotten used to Dorukhan being all over the place in a positive way, especially in the final third where he's always very involved there as well. And tonight he really wasn't. But at the same time, Atiba Hutchinson was really involved in attack, was playing a lot of balls forward, which we're not used to seeing from him, and really good balls forward, I think, especially in the first half. And I think the thing was really that Dorukhan was doing a lot more dirty work today, allowing Atiba to do more fancy stuff, which we're really not used to him doing. And I think it's so remarkable that the guy turned 36 years old yesterday. He's been at the club for, I guess, 6.5 years or so now, 6 years, and we're still discovering new aspects of his game. I mean, I swear to God, I've never seen him play that many balls forward before, as he did tonight, and he did so brilliantly. I really didn't know he could do that, honestly.
Yeah, Atiba was great.
So I just think that Dorukhan just made Atiba much better because he was playing a very selfless match, just the way that Guven was playing a very selfless match. But I also understand the sub of Guven because he worked so hard for so long.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that the guys who came off couldn't have come off. I just don't know if the order and the guys who like the actual swaps were the right ones. But
I think it makes sense to put Caner on for Guven if Guven is playing left winger because you don't really have anyone else on the bench. I think that can play that position naturally. I don't know who else was on the bench. Maybe Mustafa Bektemek could have come on.
I was going to say I think you'd go Bektemek if that's where you're going. Yeah. Although I honestly think you probably and I don't quite understand the hesitation. I think you swap Ljajic. I think the quicker we swap Ljajic to the left side, and get him settled in there, the better that is.
That happened later when Najib came on for Adriano. Janner moved back to the left back, and then Ljajic went to the left wing. So it did happen, just with a slight delay. I think
that's what I mean. I think the order. That's why, anyway, whatever. Let's know. I
think we just don't have that much depth on the bench right now, and when it comes to those wings with Quaresma being suspended, and I don't know. Maybe I do get where you're coming from, and he probably should maybe the Pektemek Guven sub would have made more sense, because then you're basically putting on a player that does the same Pektemek is a worker, makes those dirty meters, does the same thing as Guven does. He's just not.
He can replicate that energy in theory.
Yeah.
But anyway, so let me get into the stats really quick, because I think we're already sort of jumping into analysis. I'll briefly just breeze through it. Beşiktaş led possession today, 56-44%, despite being up for most of the match. That's actually good news. 11 shots, 7 of them on target for Beşiktaş to Bursaspor's 8 and 3 on target. 521 passes to their 427. 79% completed to their 75%. 17 fouls committed by Beşiktaş to their 15. Offsides twice by Beşiktaş, only once for Bursaspor. And corners 4 to their 3. So the stats tell a story here, which I think is fairly accurate, which is that Beşiktaş deserved their win. They held more of the ball despite having the lead, which means they kept their game plan intact, as you said, until that second goal. I don't think the stats really say anything that's surprising. The one surprise maybe, and we talked about this before we started recording, is the lack of offsides. Burak Yilmaz is notorious for maybe even doing that to the point where it's a problem. So having discipline isn't inherently a bad thing in that regard. Perhaps what's more surprising is how few offsides and corners they had. Our defense was really mopping it up, it looks like, back there. And that's probably worth mentioning. I thought I said this in our group chat, and I'm going to sort of put it on the record. Isi Miran and Vida. Isi Miran and Vida. For me, it's a pair of, and of course, it's very early in the Isi Mat experiment, but at least thus far, this could be the pair of central defenders that finally replaces Zago and Ronaldo Guiaro as my favorite all-time pairing on the back line. And they're a good foil for each other, like salt and pepper, right? Very clear distinctions between the two, short and tall, fast. Well, they're both fast. That's that's not bad.
The thing with these two is that they're both still relatively young. I mean, Vida, okay, he's turning 30 years old.
That's not so old these
days. But he can still go for many years at this level.
Absolutely.
Given he's a defender and all that. And Isimat is 27, so in theory, this could be our pairing for the next 4 or 5 years.
I love it.
Perhaps.
I love it. And it's amazing how quickly things turn, at least in terms of our impression. And it just
I want to temper your joy.
Well, before you get the chance to, let me get even more excited. What's nice is how through some small, somewhat minimalistic moves, everything has shifted. And suddenly, right, we talk about Isi Miran and Vida as a pairing for the next few years. We talk about Dorukhan and Guven Yalçın, which we would never have even found if Şenol Güneş didn't come really, really under the fire there for a while. Karius and Ljajic are rounding into form to the extent that the peanut gallery has essentially been shut up in regards to both of them.
The peanut gallery?
Yeah, how great is that term? I love the term. That's from the old Muppets, those two old guys. Anyway, whatever.
Right. Yeah, I know the ones. I never watched many Muppets, but like we had in Belgium, we had Sesamstraat, which is kind of Muppets, I guess.
Yeah, Sesame Street. Yeah, we had that too. It's amazing how suddenly we have this core of guys that we can kind of look forward to for at least the next 4 or 5 years or so, assuming, of course, financial ruin doesn't come sooner. But which is, of course, if you listen to the John Okar episode, a real thing, a reality. But I like this second half of the season has been nothing but peaches and cream so far. But go ahead, Kaan. Go ahead and rain on the parade.
Except for Erzurum, those 2 expensive points again. I mean, imagine if we beat Erzurum, we would be 7 points off first place right now. So then there's still some possibilities. I mean, then they just need to lose 1 game and you're within, you're not within striking distance, but you're within 4 points then, and that changes things. But the main thing, I think, for what you're saying, we'll have to wait and see what happens with Karius if we manage to buy him, because we need to keep in mind it's an 8 million option. That's going to be very difficult. Laic, we're gonna have to buy him, it looks like, because he's coming up to those 20 games, I think. And as far as I know, that's the clause.
Isn't Karius a kind of, if he plays X
amount, but that's over 2 years and needs to pay 50% of all the matches in those 2 years. So if he doesn't play anything next season, for example, then you don't. I mean,
right.
He needs to play 50% next season, I think.
Okay.
But we'll have to wait and see where that goes. But I mean, Laic has been coming into his own. He was amazing again today, I think, and he's been so important. He's only 27 years old. He only just turned 27 a couple months ago. So he's just another one of those players that we can look forward to for the coming years. And I feel like he's slowly but surely taking on a leadership role in the team. And he's taking a lot of responsibility. And that's something I was kind of fearful for with him, because he has a little bit of a reputation of maybe disappearing sometimes. I just feel like I don't know. He comes across as somebody that just takes responsibility, and that's so important.
Well, and think about Anelka. Sometimes Turkey has that effect on guys where they,
But I mean, even our resident hater Sali, he was like, "This is like the best 10 performance I've seen in I don't know how long."
Although he did throw some shade at him earlier in the match. As soon as we're winning a match, everything the sun comes up, the clouds. But anyway, but so you actually made a point. You made a sub point that I want you to pick up on, Kaan. Could you tell our listeners about what the standings look like now after our match? So we are now. You said we could have been 7 points behind. That is a could have, would have, should have. We are in fact 9 points back. Is that right?
Yeah. So basically, we're back to square one where we left off at the winter break. Başakşehir had their first slip up today. They drew at home 1-1 to Erzurumspor, the same team that kept us on a draw 2 weeks ago at home, and they kept Başakşehir to a draw today at home. I watched the game. Erzurum could have won it. I swear to God.
They showed verve. They against us, man. I said it. That was my solo episode, and I said, man, like these guys don't deserve where they are on that table.
Oh yeah, they're a good team, and Egemen's just
back.
Yeah, it's back. Yeah, he's really lost a couple years of his career with injuries and all that, and he's already, I don't know, he's like 35 years old or 36. I don't know. He must be up there right now. But I mean, we only enjoyed him for one season. But he was such a great player, such a warrior, such a great defender, over my dead body type.
Yeah, I was a big fan of him.
Not just a butcher though. He was also he had a certain classiness to him as well, and he still has that. When he's fit, he still has that, and he scored the goal. He was really good against us as well. I mean, it was just him and their goalkeeper that kept us from not winning that game. And the thing that I kind of want to say, we were kept to a 1-1 draw, but I think we should have always won that game. Today, I didn't have that feeling that Başakşehir should have always won that game. I think, they could have scored 2 when they were 1-0 up. They definitely had a couple of chances to do so, but Erzurum was in this match from the beginning, I thought. Başakşehir were kind of lucky to get an early goal, own goal, but then Erzurum had a goal disallowed, which was correct, I believe. But yeah, after that 1-1, you could just see that, and this is the thing with Başakşehir, we're like this entire season, people talk about them like they're like these mystical creatures that are perfect and all that, but you got to keep in mind they only got 35 points in the first half of the season. That is by no means impressive.
Yeah.
We got 26 points in 70 matches. That is pathetic. Pathetic. We got 30 points last season, and that was pathetic. You should at least, if you want to make a serious run of the title, 35 points is like the bare minimum, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed.
I remember Galatasaray became champions a couple of years ago with 29 points at the halftime, which was super weak, but everyone else was shit, so they were lucky. And that's kind of the situation now with Beşiktaş, where they have 35 points, and it's really not that great, but everyone else is shit, so they can get away with it. But Beşiktaş, they've looked impressive the second half of the season, but they didn't impress me that much in the first half of the season, if I'm honest. But the second half of the season thus far, they had looked impressive until today, until that 1-1. Then it just, you could see the doubt snuck in. And the thing is, I think we need Galatasaray to win tomorrow, because if Galatasaray win tomorrow, then they're back only 6 points. Is it? Yeah, 6 points behind, and then Beşiktaş are gonna. I really think that Beşiktaş are gonna start dropping some points in the coming couple of weeks.
They're gonna catch up.
If both Beşiktaş and Galatasaray keep that pressure up on them, they're gonna drop points, because that's what happened the past 2 seasons. They've come close. Last season they should have won the title, but they were really, last season they were the best team. They had the best team because we were totally screwing things up, but they let Galatasaray run and get away with it, and they ended third, even behind Fenerbahce. And then the season before, remember when they were fighting us for the title, we had like a 7-point lead or something on them, and they were in a lost position, or 6-point lead, I don't remember. We were basically already champions. All we had to do is either beat them or just keep them on a draw in their own stadium, and we would be fine. Then they beat us 3-1, because that was their last chance. They were coming from that underdog role, and then they are very vicious and dangerous. But once they're in that favorite role, because then it was back in their hands, kind of, and it was up to us to fuck up.
Right.
Then they completely choked, and I had the feeling last season they did the same thing.
I was setting up to argue with you, Kaan, because I was looking at the table and I'm like, I don't think you can actually want Galatasaray to win right now, because ultimately we're still, like, realistically more in a battle for that second spot than we are actually in a row for that.
Yeah, of course.
But
that's the thing.
But tomorrow I'm actually going to side with you, and the reason is that it's twofold. They're playing against Trabzonspor, and so if Trabzon wins, fine, like, we're level on points with Galatasaray, but then Trabzonspor is also level on points with us, and they're giving us pressure from behind. So, you know what? Maybe you're right. From a tactical advantage, I'll roll with that. God, this.
Look, Galatasaray aren't going to beat Fenerbahce in Fenerbahce. They're not going to win that match. They have a complex. They haven't won there since 1999, so that's 20 years this year. This year, if they don't beat them, there's 20 years.
And I think we beat them with this momentum. If there's a good feeling around the team right now. I feel
that all depends on how the table. I think if Galatasaray are still in the title race by the time we have to play Galatasaray away, then it's going to be very tough. But if they're out and if they're demoralized and all that, and then you got a good chance at winning that. So, I mean, our chances at the title are extremely slim. But if you want to keep that glimmer of hope alive, you need as much pressure as possible on Başakşehir. And for the time being, it's better to have pressure from 2 teams than you have from 1 team.
Yeah.
Or from 3 teams, whatever. But the more pressure, the better.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with Başakşehir. I think if they're gonna win the title, if they manage to go into those final 4 weeks with a royal lead, with a good lead, like an 8-point lead or something, where they can afford to f up, then they're a shoe in for the title. But if they go into those final 4 weeks with a 4-point lead or a 3-point lead, no way in hell they're winning it. They have the players that have experience. But as a team, as a club, they don't have that. Abdullah Avcı is a choker. I know there's a lot of fanboys out there that like to gush all over his tactical prowess and his genius and blah, blah, blah, blah, blah, blah.
He just knows how to beat
Channel. He plays the same fucking tactic every time as well, just like Channel Gunesh does. Yeah, he beats Channel every time because Channel is a stubborn mule. But look the past couple of years how they fared against Fenerbahce, against coaches that actually adjust when they play them. Channel is too proud. He doesn't do that. He doesn't adjust. He doesn't. He just doesn't do that. He's like, well, we're Beşiktaş. We play our own game. We're not gonna adjust ourselves to our opponents. They have to adjust to us. That's the mentality.
And then what happens
he has.
when they successfully
and
do
then
that?
and then he gets gets F to the A. But look at Dik Advocaat, what he did. Look at what Aykut Kocaman did. They adjusted to Avci, and Avci doesn't know what the hell he has to do then. He's clueless then. So please don't tell me he's a tactical genius. He's a good tactical coach. His plan A is really good. His plan B and his plan C,
non-existent.
They're not good because they don't exist.
Well, here's another follow-up to the point as far as the standings and match days go and all that. Next week, Beşiktaş is on the road to Yeni Malatyaspor, but if they can pick up 3 points there, Kasim Pasha is away. Galatasaray is on the away to Kasim Pasha, and Başakşehir is at home to Antalya. But so both of them are playing competition that's towards the top of the table.
Nah. Kasim Pasha are gonna hand them the points because Kasim Pasha have a clause in their contract. If Galatasaray win the title, they get 3 million extra for the Agde.
Oh, so come on, that's terrible.
They're not gonna beat Galatasaray. If they do that, they shoot themselves in the foot.
And it's worth noting too that Kasim Pasha actually and Antalyaspor have both slipped down the table. There was a point when they were third
Kasim
and fourth.
Pasha are completely out.
And Antalya is at 29.
Kasim Pasha got their points in the first half of the season. They're perfectly safe in the standings. They have no aspirations to go to Europe next season because I believe they still have an outstanding ban anyway. So they got their points. They're safe. They got what they wanted. They got 10+ million for Diagne already. They're gonna sell Trezeguet at the end of the season, probably for 7-8 or whatever. If they can get Galatasaray to buy it or someone else, they got what they wanted, man. Kasim Pasha are not a club with ambition. They don't have any fans. They don't have certain people behind them pushing them to become this vanity project that's like Başakşehir are. So Kasim Pasha, they've thrown in the towel. I don't think they have any ambition to finish in the top 5. Antalyaspor, they're too up and down, but they can of course cost Başakşehir points, but I don't think so.
No, and both sides were I think respectively in 3rd and 4th earlier in the year, but yeah, they've both slid down the table. Antalyaspor has already dropped points this week. Mm-hmm. I think Kasim Pasha likely will. So yeah, and they're in 7th and 8th now.
I think the clubs you need to watch this season that are gonna cost Başakşehir points potentially: Alanyaspor, Çaykur Rizespor, Fenerbahçe, of course, Galatasaray, and Beşiktaş. Those are the 5 clubs. Those are the 5 big tests I see for them. I think that's. Malatya are they lost Sadik, they lost Butaib, they're kind of changed, they still have to adjust, they're not really going as good as they did the first half of the season.
What about Konya under...
Konya, I completely forgot. Yeah, no, Konya they're gonna cause us problems too, but they could definitely cause Başakşehir problems. So that's 6 matches that they still have to play against opponents, I think, where they can struggle. I don't know if they're away at Konya or if they're away at Alanya, but for Başakşehir it doesn't really matter that much, I think, whether they're home or away, because their home games are basically away matches too. I mean, if you saw the match today against Erzurum, when Erzurum scored, there was more noise than at any other point in the match,
Of course, because they don't exist.
That's not a fake club. Same thing happened against Sivasspor. There's just, when these clubs, these Anatolian clubs come to town that have a decent following, and they play Başakşehir, their fans outshine Başakşehir fans because Başakşehir fans are, probably 50% of them get free tickets and told to go to the game, and the other 50%, so the other 1,000 that are there, they're, yeah. It's plastic.
Of course, man.
It's
No,
an
by all
artificial
means.
shit club. I mean, the only reason that we were discussing this earlier in the group, and our friends said, who would you prefer, Başakşehir or Galatasaray to win the title? And quite frankly, if it wasn't for Galatasaray, basically, I find it a way of cheating what they're doing last summer, what they did with all those transfers. I find that a way of that's I don't think that's ethically. It's not, they're in the same boat as Fenerbahçe, as Beşiktaş and Galatasaray with the financial fair play and all that, and they just seem to wipe their asses with that, and they just buy, and somehow they get away with it because they took that ban in Europe for a year, and then this time UEFA didn't nip them in the butt quick enough. But now they just do it again with it. I mean, if it wasn't for that 20 million they splashed in the last couple of days on the transfer window, I'd totally say, look, I would rather have Galatasaray win the title than Başakşehir, because at least Galatasaray are a real club, But just because of what they did, I think it would be. I just have a problem with them getting away with that, because it rewards wrong behavior. That's like giving your dog a piece of candy because he or she's barking the entire time and being a bad dog. You don't reward bad behavior, and that's kind of what would happen if Galatasaray would win the title now. So that's the only reason why I wouldn't right out say Galatasaray, but otherwise I would always say Galatasaray. Whoever. If you're listening to this podcast, you're a Turkish football fan, and you want Başakşehir to win the title, there's something wrong with you, because Başakşehir winning the title is the most terrible thing that could possibly happen to Turkish football, because it's cannibalizing the sport.
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, everything about this, Galatasaray basically staring their huge debt in the face and splurging anyway. I mean, it's all bad news. The only good guy is Beşiktaş, so we've got to win. That's the only. But let's move on, guys.
Yes, we're holier than that. Now we have
a few talking points before we dig into sort of man of the match, our high and low lights and stuff. Burak Yilmaz. Now, there's some interesting stats here. You posted these on Beşiktaş International's Twitter page. Now, he received 47 balls. No, I'm sorry.
47 touches.
He had 47 touches on the ball. Yeah, I guess. I mean, you could still say, I guess he received the ball 47 times. That would have worked. Two goals on 3 shots. Yep. 2 of those shots from within the penalty box, and I guess those are both of his goals. 7 times. He possessed the ball 7 times.
Target. That's shots on target.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, yeah, and they're goals. The 2 goals. 7. He possessed the ball 7 times in the penalty box. He had an 82% passing rate. And then 4 of 9 for what was that, Kaan?
Physical duels. So he won 4 out of 9 duels with his.
He won 4. It's Kaan's my Turkish resource here. He won 4 out of 9 duels. So all in all, statistically a phenomenal match from Burak Yilmaz. And this is probably then a convenient segue into our conversation for man of the match.
Yeah.
Who is your highlight, Kaan? Is it Burak?
I think there was a couple. I think there were. You know what? I like the saying. I think Burak Yilmaz has to be the man of the match because he scored both goals, but he wasn't necessarily the best player on the pitch. I think you can be man of the match and not the best player on the pitch. I think Laiç was better. I think Lens was better. Atiba was tremendous.
Atiba was phenomenal.
Atiba was phenomenal. Lens was great again. Laiç
I was going to give
fantastic.
it to Lens. My man of the match is Jermaine Lens. The assist to set up our scoring, to get us going, and he was just a lightning rod all over the pitch.
And Güven was great too.
Güven was very solid, but like you mentioned this, and I actually fully agreed. I apologize for not getting your back in the group chat, but Güven Yalçın did. He looked out of position and a little uncomfortable, but at the same time, he's so talented, and he has so much onus, so much.
He looks
impetus.
like he belongs in the team.
Yeah, he compensated for being out of position, but again, he was clearly out of position just with his talent and energy. So I wouldn't give him a man of the match, although he definitely merits honorable mention. I mean, today was really a match where you can't say anyone really stood out as being a low light. Honestly,
I
maybe
want to.
Dorkan.
You know what the thing is? I want to say Burak is for me the clear man of the match because he scores both goals. But I don't really know who I want to give the best player to. To me, Burak wasn't the best player on the pitch. I think it's more between Atiba, Ljajic, and Lens. So
yeah. Totally.
I think you kind of have to pick between either Ljajic or Atiba because they stayed on for 90 minutes. So I don't really know. I think maybe Ljajic, maybe I don't know.
Wow. So, I mean, I'd argue that the 90-minute thing isn't that essential, and I would still give it to Lens.
Oh, excuse me.
Because Lens was so important, I think, in our build-up throughout the match, and he allowed Dorkan to have a sloppy, first 60 minutes or so because he was just everywhere. If Dorkan's pass was a little clumsy, he'd still manage to get onto it. I mean, this whole second half of the season, he's come out much like he did the beginning of the season, and that's really good news because I think he's going to be important.
Lens has just been showing what he would have done if he would have been starting.
Yeah,
I don't think that's that. I think the only reason that we haven't seen this Lens all season is because some certain person didn't want to play him.
Yeah, and you've already talked quite a bit about Atiba. I allowed it, but you talked about him in the match when we were just going over the match points. What happened in the match? But I agree fully. And you said this in the group chat, but it's phenomenal that you have a guy who just turned 36 this week. And we're still finding new strengths, new abilities of his. His ability to hold the ball in the center of the midfield, not in a more sort of defensive role as we've grown accustomed to, was really outstanding today. And he showed that he's aging. When he loses the ball, it's hard for him to recover. But when you have guys like Dorkan who are very quick and very able in that regard, they're a great pairing. This is the second match in a row.
Did you read that tweet yesterday from, I don't remember exactly who it was, but on Twitter, and he said something about Atiba being one of the greatest players he ever seen play at Beşiktaş, and then he said something about his flair. And I remember we read that in the group, and we were all like, what?
What flair? Yeah.
I think it might have been Aaron.
Lo and behold, he was a prediction guy. Dude, he's a seer, that guy. He was just
Aaron?
predicting the future.
No, but the thing is, we were like, what? Flair? Atiba doesn't... he's not a player with flair, and today he had flair.
That's what I'm saying. That guy was just predicting. He was just... He was looking into the crystal ball, Kaan.
He was flicking and giving one-touch passes, and it was like, what?
You saw that one-touch flick behind the back that almost set up a goal. It set up Gökhan Gönül for a cross. That was phenomenal.
But no,
along the right side.
Especially in the first half, I just Atiba was just doing stuff that I don't remember him ever doing before, and I think that's just crazy when it's a player that's played for your team for 6+ years. And you've watched him play. I don't think I've ever missed a match in those 6 years. So, I might have watched a couple on delay because I couldn't watch them live, but. I just don't remember him doing. I think he in 45 minutes had as many passes forward as he does in two 90-minute matches usually. Yeah. And that's one of the things that not so much that he's been criticized for in the past, but we kind of know and accept that he's kind of a lateral passer. He's the one that
he's limited in that regard, or he has been anyway.
Limited. That was his function, his role. I think. That became clear today, that he was just doing that. He was playing in service of the team and not playing the forward passes too much because I guess maybe that was expected from Ozan.
Maybe that's coached. Maybe that was coached.
But then I think when I say that, I'm thinking, well, then those matches where he was playing with Medel, why wasn't he doing it then? So I don't know.
Well, maybe Dorkan shows more. Whatever.
Maybe Atiba just had an amazing game because it was his birthday yesterday and he felt super motivated. I don't know. Maybe
it's the clutch gene, man. It's the clutch gene. Clutchinson, Atiba Clutchinson, and I'll tell you, man, in this little mini resurgence that we're now experiencing, and it will hopefully ride into next week and beyond. He's been a vital cog in that, and we mentioned him sort of in passing last week, but it's worth noting that he's been in that role alongside Durakan as this resurgence has kicked into high gear. So
Look,
I don't know, man.
there's 13 matches remaining, so there's 39 points left to be gained. I think if you win all 13 of them, you're champions.
Let's keep our fingers crossed, fans, listeners. All right, so let's keep it moving because my daughter is getting ready for dinner. The window's closing here for this episode. Let's see. Other talking points.
Who is going to play?
We've hit on. Yeah. Well, and before we do that, is there anyone you want to call out as a low light?
No. Don't think it's warranted in a match that was as good as this one.
I don't think anyone needs to be called out.
One of the subs, but
we said Durakan. Durakan was a little poor early on, but maybe he enabled Atiba to play a certain way.
I think he was just playing a selfless game, and I think he was kind of doing what Guven was doing. The difference is that Guven does that in a more attacking area of the pitch, so you notice it more. I think Guven was just Durakan was just doing a lot of dirty work in hindsight, which maybe. Yeah. I think the thing is with Durakan, we've just been so spoiled with him standing out,
scoring stunning goals,
doing silly stuff, scoring in 5 consecutive matches, which unfortunately for him, 2 of those matches his goals didn't count. But I mean, he's in a very short list of players since 2014 that scored in 3 consecutive games for Beşiktaş, and I think most of the other players that are on that list are all attacking players, and he's a box-to-box midfielder, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and we're starting to retread on points we've already made. So I think we can say that this match's analysis is complete. It was a great match. We have to keep building on it, though. You know, there's only one direction to move in unless we don't want to win the title. But so before we wrap things up for good here this week, there's a nice conversation to be had, a fun conversation, especially for people like Kaan and I, who have been asking for this type of conversation to have been had for months, if not years even. Not plural. Years plural would be excessive. But there have been rumors percolating, and Chanel himself slightly shut them down today, but you never quite know. I mean, you're not going to say the truth in these scenarios. But there's talk of Şenol Güneş maybe leaving Beşiktaş for the national team. And with that conversation, right, İlhan Mansız's news flash. I'll play the news, the breaking news, although it's not really breaking anymore. İlhan Mansız has stepped down. He said he had back issues, but there's been talk that maybe that's not quite what's going on. Alongside the rumors of Şenol Güneş maybe leaving for the national side. And then there are rumors of certain members of the board preferring Guti as a successor, and then other members preferring a name many Beşiktaş fans, especially old-timers like Kaan and I, will remember, Sergen Yalçın, and I guess you might recognize him as a current coach for... It's not Alanyaspor, is it? It is Alanyaspor. He's coaching Alanyaspor, and they're playing quite well under him.
They're playing great.
But so... First of all, go to our Twitter account on Beşiktaş International at Beşiktaş_INT. Check out our polls. We've got a number of fun polls up now, but one of them is, who do you prefer as Şenol Güneş's successor? And we've got both Guti and Sergen as options, and then of course the enigmatic other, who you can fill in, and please let us know who that is for you. Kaan, what do you have to say, sir?
Well, there's a 449 votes in today already, and 42% have said Guti, 45% have said Sergen, and 13% have said someone else, and the majority of people who said someone else have said Tamer Tuna.
I'm surprised we don't have any Avcı fanboys in there.
There's one Slaven Bilic.
Oh, okay.
And a bunch of Tamer Tuna.
Is that
no,
Ilke?
I specifically
with the Bilic?
No, that's Cahir. Chahir Mai.
Okay.
Sahir Mai. But I specifically mentioned in the tweet that don't say Abdullah Avci. He just signed a 5-year extension, so that would be so
nice.
Say that. And then there's also some Simon who just started following us. He's a Borussia Dortmund fan. He started following the account because of Kagawa. Obviously, he said Peter Stöger,
Okay,
who
I'll
I
take
guess
it.
is well,
I like it.
I guess he was an assistant at Borussia or something. But yeah,
not?
no.
I'll take him.
Most people that responded in regards to someone else, they're all Tamer Tuna except for one Slaven Bilic. But obviously, more people have voted on someone else and just didn't reply. But Firat says Tamer Tuna. Who is this one here? Arayan Adam says Tamer Tuna. Ekrem Yasha says Tamer Tuna. Then Simon said Peter. Then John here. For me, I think it should be Guti till the end of the season, and then Sergen at the start of next season.
Whoa, that's bold, and that's not. Well, you couldn't tell him that.
And then Tin Man said it's Guti, Baba. So yeah,
Okay.
lots of different opinions. I think a lot of Tamer Tunas, and obviously the majority of people so far have voted for Sergen. He's edging out Guti right now with about 3% of the votes. According to our resident insider, the plan is just to go forward with Guti next season, and if Ahmet Nur Çebi somehow would get elected as president in May, then Channel could stay. But if we continue with the current board, then it looks like Guti is the man who we're gonna go with. But I could see that change. I could see Sergen get the job. But
And now you've speculated that Ilhan Mansi stepping down might have to do with maybe some talk of Guti getting the position.
Yeah. That was my theory. There was, of course, the first thing that comes out when something like this comes out is instantly, oh, he hasn't been getting paid. That's the easy answer, which I could totally see that. But then again, I don't know if Ilhan would leave for money. I think Ilhan is a guy the man of the club that would say, yeah, you know what, I'll get my money when I get it, unless of course he urgently needs it. But then I think they would pay him if it was really urgent. But I think it might have to do with Guti taking over at the end of the season and him bringing in his own people.
Yeah, whenever you have a coach, you
perfect-
got to give them the chance to pick
Yeah, I
their
mean, if Sergen would come in, I could perfectly see Ilhan stay on the staff and maybe get a lesser role as a normal coach, not so much the assistant. But I don't know. I think if Sergen comes on, they play together. I'm sure they like each other. I could perfectly see Ilhan stay on. So if Guti gets the job, I think Guti's gonna want to bring in some people from Spain, which makes perfect sense, I think.
which could be good, since they'd probably be coming from Real Madrid's youth department, which I can get behind.
Yeah, they would most likely be either coaches or players he's played with, or coaches he's worked with. So, yeah, I mean, for me, obviously, I think most people who kind of know me know that my all-time favorite player is Sergen. People who follow me on Twitter probably know that I'm a real fan of the football he plays. Makes his teams play. I think everywhere he's coached, he's improved their teams. I mean, was it last year or the year before he came in at Kayserispor and became their coach, and suddenly Deniz Turic started lighting the world on fire. And I even remember, I think the guys at FC Afrika interviewed Deniz that season, and he spoke about how Sergen made him a better player, how Sergen put him in that number 10 role and gave him confidence, and he was performing at a crazy level that season, and he credited Sergen for that. I think Sergen is a coach with a lot of potential. He makes his teams play very good football. I think he has the potential to make players better. The way he makes his teams play is very different than what he was himself. His teams run a lot, cover a lot of ground, press very effectively. There was this very funny quote a couple of weeks ago from Efe Can Karaca, who's one of Alanyaspor's players, who told this story of when he was talking to Sergen in training, he said, "Coach, why do you make us run so much? You never ran as a player." And Sergen's reply was, "The day you have the talent that I had, you can stop running." Basically,
True.
but it was said in good spirit, of course. But that's the thing. I mean, Sergen as a coach, he has only impressed me, and the only downside to Sergen as a coach so far is the fact that he doesn't stick around long. He quits quickly. But the thing is, I know for a fact that when he quit at Gaziantepspor, that was after he saved them from relegation. They relegated the next season. He saved them from relegation, and then he quit. They got like a bunch of points in like 9 games or something, and they were safe. And then he quit because the players weren't getting paid.
Oh, man.
I get that.
Yeah, of course. Those
I
are hard
that.
circumstances. Although that might not be a ringing endorsement for Beşiktaş these days.
I believe he went back to Gaziantepspor, or I don't remember if it was Gaziantepspor or another club. And one of the conditions that he said, "I'm gone as soon as you stop playing the players." And that happened, and he was gone. And I get that. And the thing with Beşiktaş, I don't think he's gonna. I think with Beşiktaş, it's different. The thing with Gaziantepspor is, if those players never got their money.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean,
Gaziantepspor is gone now. They're bankrupt. They had people at the helm of that club, the Kizels, who were just robbing that club blind. Were taking all the money from that club, and those players, I think they probably still.
Jeez.
They probably still didn't get their money. That's the difference. I mean, with Beşiktaş, you're going to get your money eventually. The same thing with Galatasaray, eventually those guys are going to get their money. And if they don't, the thing is, with a club that doesn't play in Europe like Gaziantepspor, as a player, you don't have much power because you can go to FIFA, but and you can go to UEFA. But the only thing UEFA and FIFA can really do is suspend you from European football or whatever. So for a big club like Beşiktaş and Galatasaray and Fenerbahçe, that's a way to pressure those clubs and paying those wages.
For sure.
And you can go to CAS and all that, but a club like Gaziantepspor, if they go under, there's nothing you can do. So it's a different situation. I don't think Sergen would. First and foremost, he's a son of the club and all that, but I think the situation will be different. I would be 100% for Sergen, but at the same time, I think we made a commitment to Guti, and I don't know the type of football Guti will make us play. But I suspect it would be good. Guti has been seriously considered as Real Madrid coach on 2 occasions already. In the summer before Lopetegui got appointed, and then again after Lopetegui got sacked. So right now, Solari is doing it, I think. But I could see Guti get that job at some point. But I think Guti has potential as a coach, but we will have to wait and see. He's kind of a question mark still for us because we haven't really seen him coach at senior level. And I didn't watch any Real Madrid Castilla games, so I can't really tell you what type of football they played. But definitely, if Guti is going to become our coach, I'm definitely going to see if I can find some people that did watch those games who can tell us a little bit more about the time Guti had there.
Actually, our good friend Evran claims to have seen them play, so we can maybe include him in the bunch. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad. I'm glad.
I mean, if you watch 1 or 2 games, it's not the same.
Yeah, no. But I'm glad you said what you said, because my impression is basically that maybe you veer towards Sergen, but it's kind of a win-win. I think you'd be somewhat pleased in either direction. And I feel the same way. I actually probably
at this point I just want to move forward, and I don't want to have Shinel's stubbornness anymore to deal with. I've had enough. I had my fill. He's wasted 2 years already.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I'm in exactly the same place in that I love both options. I actually probably veer more towards Guti only insofar as I think. In terms of it's like less upheaval. He's been with the club. He knows kind of where they're coming from, and if he's forward thinking and wants to do something slightly different, it might be of benefit that he kind of knows where they're coming from, not just in a technical sense from what you could watch on TV, but mentally, what's happening in the locker room, what's happening behind the scenes. So that could be a positive. Sure. That's.
You make some good points. I mean, he has experience in Turkey. He has plenty of experience at the club now in the coaching staff as well. He's almost got a year on his belt, so that's fantastic. So with the facility, it's not going to be like Vicente Del Bosque or Luis Aragones coming into this like they
Blind,
didn't
yeah.
know what they were getting into. And I think that's one of the main issues that foreign coaches have when they get into Turkey. There's you have this this period of adjustment, and you need to get to know the league and all that stuff. And Guti knows all the teams already that there's gonna. Well, I mean, not all the teams. Obviously, the teams that are gonna come up from the second division, he doesn't know them yet. But
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
he knows what type of football that most of those Anatolian clubs are gonna put on the mat against you. How
Yeah.
they're gonna try to counter you. What type of, and he knows the type of football Galatasaray is gonna play. He knows it.
And what I'll add to before we move on from that point, I think a major component of the failure of many foreign coaches is at a very base level, a kind of underestimation of Turkish football in general.
Yep.
I think they assume, oh, look, I have these names that I recognize, and I'm going against a bunch of these like shepherds who have never heard of. But like, there is a style and a ethos that most Turkish football carries through it, a very hard-working, tough, physical, competitive kind of environment. It's easy to underestimate Turkish football at large. I guess at the very least you could say, maybe not one team individually, but as a whole, Turkish football has really moved forward, and I think it's gotten very competitive. And you can easily drop points to sides if you underestimate them, and you've seen it time and again with foreign coaches. So that's a component that I think
and not
Guti
just
would
the
be.
underestimation. I think also perhaps the overestimation of the strength of your squad. I mean, when you saw Prandelli come in at Galatasaray, he was adamant at playing 3-man back line, and he just wanted to do that, and he just kept forcing that, and he just didn't have the players for it. And the same thing with Schuster, if you remember at Beşiktaş, he wanted to play a stupidly high defensive line, and remember how many goals we got against on the counter just because we didn't have the players to play that system. And both Prandelli and Schuster were so stubborn in that they wanted to get that, because Prandelli probably thought, once I get this system in and once the players get it, then we're off the races. Then we're golden, because then nobody will be able to beat us, because then that's the thing with these systems. Once you get them working, you probably become a super difficult team.
Yeah, but that's the thing. But you got to know, that's another thing about Turkish culture, is that coaches do not get, if you're looking for like a season to kind of get used to the position. Good luck. Maybe you'll find yourself somewhere else.
You have so many difficult components, because also one of those things is, I think one of the things that you also have culturally is, when a team is playing bad and the club is financially struggling, that club is going to do everything they can do to get those wages paid just to keep the players happy. But when that team isn't playing well, the club isn't going to put in as much of an effort. So that's one of a component that's very combustible. On top of that, you have the pressure from the fans, the time that you get from the board, from the fans, how long will they tolerate the system not working out perfectly and all that. On top of that, I think you also just have the reluctance of certain, especially back in those days when you still had that stupid foreigner limit, which is probably going to come back also. I think you had those domestic Turks, and maybe even whatever German Turks, but I just think you had those Turkish players that were very reluctant in shifting away from their 4-man back line. They didn't want to get out. They just, I think you had you created situations where these guys were like, this guy, we're just gonna wait until he's gone, and then we can go back to what we like with Riza Çalınbay or whatever.
Exactly.
I think that's also something that's a mentality issue that was there in the past, why many foreign coaches failed. I think that in the current environment, for as long as it lasts, of course, but with all these foreigners and quality foreigners that are around, I think a foreign coach can work. And I just think that Guti, I mean, if he is someone who has a tactical mind, who has a good plan and all that, which is still kind of a question mark for us, but I think if he has it in him to become a great coach, then I think he is set up perfectly to do that at Beşiktaş, because he has He already knows the league as a player. He didn't play. He played here not too long ago. It's just been like 8 years, 9 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not too long. I mean, the Turkish football culture hasn't really changed. He knows perfectly what he's going to get into from that perspective. And then from the coaching, he knows what it's like from the bench now too. And like I said, he already knows all the teams in the league, so he knows what to expect.
Yeah. Well, and what's valuable about what you were just saying about him as a foreign player who's come here is that a side like Beşiktaş is always going to have some guys with good experience abroad coming in, like on the lower end, like an Isimat Mirin, maybe on the higher end, like Guti.
Ljajic.
Yeah, or Ljajic, yeah. And so he has that experience. He can probably help them settle, saying, I know what it feels like to be, that experience. But the first time you arrive at the airport and like there are thousands of people screaming your name.
Yeah, and not just that, a guy like Guti, who has this massive reputation as former captain of Real Madrid, 14 years in Real Madrid senior squad, winning Champions Leagues, winning La Liga, all that stuff. He just commands so much respect from everyone, not just from the Turks. With Sergen, all the Turks know who he is, but I bet Ljajic has no clue who Sergen. Well, maybe, but I mean, Ljajic maybe because he has the Muslim background and all that. But I mean, let's say that in 2-3 years, some young European comes in from Europe, from a European league or whatever. They're probably not going to know who Sergen was because it's too long ago already for them. But everyone will still know who Guti is because Guti is a household name, and he played more recently as well. I mean, until 2010 he was a Real Madrid player, so that's still relatively recent. I mean, Sergen.
Yeah.
But the only downside with Guti that I don't see with Sergen, the thing with Sergen that I could see him wanting to be the Beşiktaş coach for the next 10 years. I could totally see that. I mean, if he is, I think that Beşiktaş for him could be his ultimate goal in his coaching career.
Yeah.
With Guti, that Real Madrid is his goal.
Gotta be, yeah.
And that if he's at the club and he's doing well for 2 or 3 years, and then Real Madrid come knocking, he's not gonna say no, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
So that's the thing with Guti. That's something you need to know going in advance with Guti, that he's not gonna be your coach for
forever.
for 5-6 years. I mean, if he does really well and Real Madrid need a coach in 2 years, they're gonna come knocking.
Yeah, and he's likely gonna take it.
And he's likely gonna take it. And the thing with Sergen is, if he's gonna do good for 5, I mean, that's the thing with Channel now. The only possibility is that the national team comes and plucks him away. Bayern München or Real Madrid or Barcelona aren't going to come get a Turkish coach. Of course, unless he does a Jose Mourinho with Porto in 2004 and wins the Champions League with Beşiktaş, okay, that's a different thing, but that's not going to happen.
No.
So that's the.
Well,
that's
come on now, Kaan. You never know.
Well, this isn't Football Manager, That's why.
I'm just saying, you never want to dampen all possibilities. No, I mean, let's be realistic here. It's not.
That's the thing that's the only reason that I would pick. No, not the only reason, but that's the main reason why I would pick Sergen over Guti. But then, of course, now we're going out from the best possible situation where both of them are going to be super successful, and for the same money, they're fired after 6 months because they just because they don't have that build-up credit that Channel. I mean, look, if any other coach would have done what Channel has been doing this season, he would have gotten fired. But Channel has that endless credit. But Sergen, if he comes in, he's not going to have endless credit because he hasn't won back-to-back titles yet. Guti hasn't won back-to-back titles, so those guys aren't going to get that same amount of credit. Now, I do think that both of them would get a year, just like Slaven Bilic. Slaven Bilic got 2 years, but I mean, he was still allowed to finish that last year, despite the fact that after the Liverpool game, everything went downhill. So I do think that under Orman, whether it's Guti or Sergen, they're both gonna get at least a year. But that's just the thing. I think if Guti is really successful, I don't think he'll be a Beşiktaş coach for the long term. Unless, of course, Real Madrid get a really good coach that stays there for a long time. But the thing with Guti is, and that's the other side, the downside of the medallion, or how should I put it? He's such a big name in world football. If he does a really good job, it's not just going to be Real Madrid. There's other clubs that might come knocking. Maybe Athletic Bilbao, or well, probably not because they'll want to bask, but you know what I mean. Like, there's other Spanish clubs that might want to, pull his sleeve, and maybe other clubs, maybe clubs in the Premier League or whatever. So that's the thing with Guti, and that's the thing you don't have with Sergen. No matter how well Sergen does within realistic parameters, I don't think a foreign club is going to come knocking for him, and that's you never have to fear, really. And I think with Guti, as soon as he gets the job and as soon as he starts doing well, I think you're gonna have the Turkish media just blasting rumors out there of, oh, Guti got an offer from Real Madrid, blah blah blah blah blah, constantly.
Yeah, for sure.
Even if it's not true. And I just don't, that's something we don't need. I think we need serenity when it comes to the coach.
Yeah, well, let's see what happens. I'm going to shut down the rumor today, so we'll see. But lots of interesting conversations to be had.
We all know that he's taking over the Turkish national team, and that this is the end for him at the club. I think unless he wins the title this season, which is extremely unlikely, but still possible, because it's not mathematically over, and you never know. And the thing is, if we keep playing good, you never know. But I don't know. I just don't. I think it's time. I think it was time already. In hindsight, it was time last summer, but I get why he got those additional 6 months, but it should have probably been over.
Yeah, it's time. It's been time.
We're not going to go down
Let's
that
not do that again.
Everyone knows our opinions.
Take us out.
Sure thing. You know where to follow us, guys. On Twitter, of course. You can also find it in the description, but at Beşiktaş_int. Sinan already mentioned it previously. At Eagles_podcast. Please give our podcast account a follow. We're nearly at 200, there, and we're nearly at 5,000 on the Beşiktaş International account. So if you don't follow us there yet, please give us a follow there too. It would be nice to get to that 5K mark. Follow Sinan at Sir_right_a lot, and follow myself, Kaan Bayazit, at RAZZERIAN Razarian on Twitter. You can also like us on Facebook at Beşiktaş International, one big word, and subscribe on iTunes, subscribe on Google Play, whatever. Give us a review on iTunes. For all 8 of you who have already done so, thank you very much. But please, everyone who listens to the podcast, and there's plenty of you, if all 170 of you, or whatever it is, do so. Give us a review, please, because Apple is really strange. They basically classify every review per country. So there's 155 different iTunes stores, and you basically need 5 reviews to get an actual star rating. So we would theoretically need 5 ratings in every single store. So definitely our big markets: the UK, the US, Germany, Turkey, Belgium, the Netherlands, France. Those big diaspora countries: Australia, Canada, Japan. Give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, please, so we can get 5 in each country, so we can get those ratings, and that helps us a lot. Would be very much appreciated. But that's it for me for today. Sinan, please take us out.
Go Beşiktaş! And come on, guys, this is it. We'll see you next week. We have a Friday match upcoming on the road against Yeni Malatyaspor. So stay tuned. We'll be back. Same bat time, same bat channel. See you guys. All right, man.
Same bat time, same bat channel. Is it Adam West?
Yeah, that's an old Batman reference. All right, I really gotta go. My eyes are freaking out.
Beşiktaş International hopes you enjoyed this program.